Mars is direct, but now Venus is in retrograde.
What are all these retrogrades telling us to examine? We'll talk about that and Divine Feminine coming up on Leading Out Loud.
I don't just talk stuff and repeat stuff. I'm living this stuff.
And you can thank me for covering your astro.
Leading out loud. Leading out loud. We're leading out loud.
Hello and welcome to LOL Leading Out Loud, your psychic astrology shift show. I am your psychic astrologer, Sensei Christopher Wotecki.
And I'm Scott Cruz, psychic medium and mentor. How you guys doing today? How are you doing today, Christopher?
I was like, you recognize that I have schizophrenia. That's cool. No. Yeah, I always refer to myself in the plural. Well, I'm doing pretty good, man. It's been, I'd say, a bumpy week. The Pisces energy is tougher than it seems. And when you're coming out of, the Aquarius is all highfalutin, high standards, not really detached from reality, not really picking up on reality. A lot of good vibes and thinking things are going to be great one day. And then you hit Pisces, and you're like, it's still the same old shift.
Yeah.
Kind of a bummer of energy. Not bad, just, we're clearing out our karma with ourselves. And so, for that to happen, you have to have it happen one more time.
Yeah.
And say, okay, it's a nothing burger. You didn't get me. But still, that's not fun work, for us to do. So, that's where I've been. And
I think we're also doing it. We're clearing karma collectively too. So it's like we're doing it individually, but now we're seeing each other do it collectively too. So that's even heavier, I would say, during this time. So
yeah, a lot of people haven't done their spiritual work, and that's not judgment, but it's just kind of like, damn, this earth is full of shift, and a lot of stuff to deal with. But Pisces is that yin yang energy that. The energy of two fish swimming, at any one moment, things are groovy. The next moment, things are harsh. And they just keep spinning round and round we go until we work out all the kinks,
Right.
But, here we are. We're this week moving into the teen degrees of Pisces. We'll talk about that. And, we're actually going to talk also about the Divine Feminine. Scott, you've talked about this in the past. We saw Mars retrograde, for instance, recently. So Mars went offline from the 1st of December 6th to February 23rd. And it started its retrograde in Leo and ended in Cancer, which is kind of interesting because that's kind of masculine into feminine. Right. And now Venus is retrograde, and she goes from March 1st to April 12th. She starts in Aries, the masculine, and then goes back into a more feminine sign. And she also goes from her detriment to her exalted position in Pisces. But what this means basically is we were sort of having this mixture of divine feminine, masculine energies dipping into each other's energies, right? And literally, Venus, for instance, is starting in her kryptonite and ending in her ambrosia juice, which ended up getting her sent to Ambrosia Anonymous, from what we hear. She's all drunk backwards right now. That was a joke. But, there's also a fire element going on. You noticed that last week.
Yeah. I mean, it's been very fiery, and fire is very masculine energy. So of course, taking that fire, and now you're shifting to water, which is feminine. So kind of we're sensing that rebalancing during this time too. And so I mean, Mars is masculine, Venus is feminine, right? So we're definitely seeing the balancing out going on here too. So it's heavy. It could be very heavy during this time. It doesn't have to be heavy, but I guess if we understand and we take the cues and when to take a chill pill, then we could actually rebalance a lot better. Sometimes we're just go too much,
Yeah, I mean, when they're direct, it goes from water to fire. But now in retrogrades, it goes fire to water. So literally putting out our fires, right? A lot of emotion, putting out our passion. So it's been real, flattening. It's been a very limp season, I think, energetically, for vibration. But before we go into deep with that stuff, because we're going to talk Divine Feminine, let's talk about the actual planets and the astrology and the energies going on. Like I said last week, Scott, why don't you do your collective first, and I'll then do astrology to follow.
Yeah, I mean, collectively, I think that it's just like jolting energy is what I'm feeling, kind of with a lot of in the collective too, individually, collectively. We're getting ahead, we're coming, taking a step back. We're getting ahead, taking a step back. So I think that there's movement happening here, but then before we can take any more movement, we got to sit back and reflect, like we talked about doing this balancing act. So what does divine feminine really mean? Well, it really means in this time collectively, and I'm not going to jump ahead. I'm just kind of doing the essence of the theme for the collective, is really understanding how to nurture the process. Because a lot of times we want to jump ahead. Like I said before, or do. The divine feminine is about nurturing that. So in this time, we need to start nurturing what we're doing. You need to, I've been catching myself trying to speed rush through things and end up taking more time because I'm speeding. The paradox there, so we take our time, we nurture the process, and we end up, saving time, which is the paradox there too. So right now we need to understand the heaviness is going on, that we go forward, we take a pause to reflect, we go forward, take a pause, reflect. This is that kind of hesitation energy that we're feeling, to stop and go feeling, but it's allowing us to rebalance, recenter ourselves. And it's most important right now during this time that we do nurture the process. Nurturing means that you're giving patience to the process. Patience is not waiting. Patience means that you're taking your time on things and not trying to just jump ahead. That's very important for this time right now.
So basically applying a little divine feminine to that masculine energy.
I was trying to go too much into divine feminine, but yes.
I actually feel, the big picture for astrology is that we are trading out egos, I think. That's my big grand theory. Mars retrograde was the deconstruction of the ego, basically going backwards from Leo to Cancer. So that's the deconstruction of heartache motivation, started at 6 degrees Leo. So, okay, we got heartache motivation, and then we have anger and all the hard intensities of Cancer with Mars, which is anger and passion and maybe even violence. I think would come from Mars and Cancer. So we're sort of walking back. Retrograde is an unzipping, a deconstructing as you move backwards through time of how you got to that place in the first place. And then, of course, after Mars retrogrades, right off the bat, 4 days later, Venus retrogrades. But Venus retrogrades on Mars's in Aries. So she kind of does kind of a lap dance, really, on the edge of down Aries. And again, I think to some degree, divine feminine is the only way to cool off the man, like energetically. So the fact that Venus is going to sort of get the masculine energy undressed, so to speak, and to pull apart, because I think what allows a man to let go is that yin energy. Literally a man can be way too aggressive and needs something kind of cooling to that energy to calm it down. So it seems like Venus is helping to assist this. But the big picture is, I don't see a reinvention of Venus. I don't think she's going to reinvent herself in this. She's going to reprioritize herself, because she goes back to Pisces 26, where she's exalted. So she's going to realize that now that she's got that pesky male energy out of the way, she can probably rise to a higher level. But really, ultimately, this is about the deconstruction of modern man, I think, and the demasculation of changing masculine and redefining it.
Well, I agree, and also deconstructing of just that aspect of ourselves that's out of the divine mass, that's out of balance, and deconstructing that. There's a lot of overcompensation that we've done as a collective. I think that's deconstructing, and I feel like our Venus is going to be solidified. I feel like that's the change. It's going to be solidified to where there's enough strength within our divine feminine to where it has a natural straight current. It's no longer put under the rug. It's no longer looked at as crazy. It's actually becoming a part of us now, I think, in the collective. So I really find it being solidified, Venus being solidified during this time too. And yeah, we're deconstructing all the overcompensations from a divine masculine out of balance, for sure.
Overcompensation. Yeah, I suppose that's true. Since we last left our heroes astrologically, we had Venus retrograde on Saturday, March 1st at 10 degrees. 10 degrees Aries. So again, this sort of unzipping of the fight or flight part of consciousness. That first 10 degrees of Aries, fight or flight. So sort of taking that away. Mercury entered into Aries, though, making us aggro-minded on March 3rd. And then we had a new moon slap us upside the head on at step 9. And that was really the activation of what we call the Wego. And I believe that's the next ego. It's not that the next ego is less aggressive. I think the next ego is cautionary to include another. And I talked about this before. It's almost like right now, I was talking about this to another person. It's almost like Aries and Libra are switching sides right now. You're kind of empowering the Venus Libra, and you're sort of chilling out the Mars Aries. And the other two that are flipping sides is you and the Leos, Aquas and Leos. I'm seeing Aquas care about their hair suddenly. What the fuck? And I'm seeing Leos back off, You know what I mean? And chill out and take
Saving their heads.
the back seat. Yeah. And just like be chill in the corner with a drink instead of actually being out there flamboyant. So
Yeah.
we're seeing some real reversals in that respect. And so it's an interesting thing. Now, in the upcoming week, just talk through it. Really, what Pisces is, in my opinion, is the downloading of a new spiritual program, right? So I fully believe, and we should talk about this in heaven, in the company of heaven, between lifetimes, you set up an agenda for what you want to learn. Because basically, Earth is opportunity school to learn. And so we set up these little plots. The first major plot was to clear out our karma and trauma from the Dark Ages. And the next major plot, I think, is to save the Earth, basically, to bring it to the next vibration. And so what's happening in this Pisces period, in my opinion, is basically the graduation of the age of Pisces, where all of the lessons have been instilled, particularly passion for oneself and that sort of thing. And so what you have so far is the removal of your own personal karma. That's what the new moon ended. So we're done. I'm done with my personal karma. I'm not going to fall in those traps again. Or if I do, I stupidly chose it for some reason, right? But you can't say you didn't know at this point. So you're definitely an idiot there if you do it again. And then secondly, now the changing of our karma in daily life. And that's what we've been working on this last week and will this next week. So you're going to see, my prediction is you're going to see a lot of things changing in things like work environments, relationships, people just saying they've had enough, they're done, dropping the mic and leaving things behind. And things start to get much more intense as we go into the 20 degrees. And the 20 degrees is like next week. The sun will conjoin Saturn at 22 degrees. And that's a volatile degree, by the way, for the sun and Saturn to come together. It's a degree of passion. So I wouldn't be surprised if some shift hits a fan on like a international level, by the way. And then we have a full moon lunar eclipse on March 14th at 23 degrees Virgo, which will be basically when we come back on our next show, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So the day after our next show. And that lunar eclipse at 23 Virgo is ultimately the burning of a contract. Some sort of a contract you had with reality, that you thought reality was this way or you framed up reality that way. Somehow reality will just no longer compute. And people will be a bit confused, I think, for several weeks because what they thought was reality is not reality. And that really is the erasure of the fabric of reality as we know it. And then right after that happens, so kind of Mercury then will station retrograde on the 15th. Meaning we don't know what to think. Mercury always stations right after some big event, and then we don't know what to think.
Right.
So basically, through the next week, it's the complete deconstruction of reality.
Well, and I like you said, like contracts. It's not so much even getting rid of the soul contracts. We're completing a lot of soul contracts. I'm seeing people doing, and so you can when we resolve karma, then all of a sudden we're at a position where almost like we can create whatever we want. That's the manifestation phase. We can like manifest what we want because we clear out that karma. Things are open now. So I think even with Pisces, we're going to talk about Pisces about practicing and projecting. So I think during this Pisces season too, we're going to be practicing the things that we always wanted to be practicing and moving forth on. So we talked about ego too. And I just want to concur that, it's not so much about killing the ego. It's about restructuring, embracing our ego, because I think during this time, our ego has gone out of whack for so long. The ego has been stuck in survival. When we understand what the ego is designed for and we nurture the ego to let it do what it needs to do, then we can actually live from the heart, live from the soul more seamlessly. And the ego just can do like the autopilot of what you do in the survival process as we're nurturing that. So I find a new era with that because we've a lot of us have completed a lot of soul contracts and complete a lot of karma. So yeah, I definitely want to concur on that in that regard too. Especially with, in Pisces, we're going to start practicing our new intentions now, and a lot of that opening to like new manifestations. So yeah, it's almost like the new timeline is ahead.
Yeah.
So.
And we call it the Wego at Serious Joy because in unity consciousness, that's really what it's about. You've already seen the Wego come into play. You've seen the Wego come into play in the sense of people wanting these alternative communities. That's like thinking about the we. They're like, hey, we go do it, and we'll do it ourselves. And so you're seeing that sort of mentality. You're certainly seeing Wego mentality as far as like boycotting and things like that, where people are clumping together. And so this really what was picketed for in the '60s is going to actually happen with the grandchildren of that generation. The baby boomers, which is Gen X, is probably going to be the we generation. Interestingly enough, the one that pushes it and pilots it. I think going forward. So we're kind of adopting this new identity of I'm only as good as my brother and sister type of thing. Not communism. That's something else. That was trying to erase ego and make it common.
Sure. Yeah. It's collective. It's definitely more collective, collective
I
focus.
think so. Yeah. Well, what else are we going to do? You know what I mean?
Seriously. I mean, how much can we be me, 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 me? I mean, the Bush era ended a long time ago. Like me is like kind of like not working. And so, I think even people who are so self-centered and very narcissistic are getting tired of being narcissistic too. They're getting, there's gotta be more, to this. I gotta feel like I'm giving to something. So I'm starting to see even people who have been so selfish needing something, external to nurture, another person or the soul, So, yeah, it's a huge breakdown of that, which is great.
Back to our spiritual nature. You know what? I'm not, the whole me generation that we've gone through. I don't criticize it as much because
No,
honestly,
needed it.
we came here to learn who we are. The whole point of
Mhm.
coming to Earth is that up in heaven, all you are is a thought. You're
Right.
just a thought. It's like living in your brain right now. Close your eyes. That's heaven. Like that's pretty much it. You're stuck in your mind, and you wonder what things look like, and you wonder what you look like, and you wonder what makes you different than the other glowing, ball light that just zip past you. And so we come down here to learn about what we are, our individuality, and the choices we make. That's what's interesting. So it's not a bad thing, I think, to have gone through a me stage.
Oh, of
You
course
know,
not.
but then once you have the me stage, then you want to connect. You know what I mean? And you start to move to
Right.
I think the we stage and the power of we. So I feel like it's going to be the power of we. And even the things going on in politics, I haven't been watching, but some people have told me some stuff. I'm like, no shit. There's some real interesting stuff going on right now. And I think that's sort of the Wego coming forward. The result of not liking the politics is a lot of people are going, we've got to change this. We've got to make a difference, and realizing that one person just can't do it. So you're seeing
Right.
that birth of the Wego happen. And I think
Yeah.
it'll really take fire in April is when things really just sort of take off energetically. And we have
True.
this sort of stress start to hit on the planet.
Yeah, I definitely see. I was like always been cyclically feeling that last year, like April, May of 2025, huge, like almost like catapult forward. And so, and this political era that we're in is like illuminating a lot of things. It's almost like I feel spirits like deliberately saying, "Do you see this?" It's almost like now it's so obvious of what we've been kind of putting our heads in the sand on. It's like in our faces now. It doesn't matter the party, but just how everything has been massively controlled and how we're needing to stand up and rise up and start controlling ourselves. So,
Yeah.
I feel like it's so blatant, like almost spirits like, do you guys see this? So I think a lot of people are starting to notice that too. And so I think during this time, if we're so reactive to the political stuff, like look beneath inside of what is it really telling you? What is it you feel like you're deprived of yourself that you're trying to express too? Don't just let it be just about the politics. Let it be about what's it trying to resurrect within you that you're trying to express. A lot of people are, I'm sure you agree, Christopher. A lot of people are they're angry about stuff that they feel like they never got to express. And so they're using politics or other avenues as a way to like fight against what they weren't able to express because they were deprived of it. And I'm saying we can express it now. We can engage now with that. Always look behind the feeling of the things that we're being triggered by.
Yeah.
So
When I have clients and do readings and they'll, be so angry with this president or that president. I look in their chart like you were the leader last time. You're probably
Right.
seeing reflections of yourself. You're still feeling guilty for being just as much of a jackass. And so you're pointing at hating yourself in the past life on this
Right.
person. People don't realize that often what's making you mad is that your soul regrets being that way. And this guy's doing it right here now.
Right.
So it's really fascinating to see. I wonder if we're going to come to that realization in our lifetime of past lives and karma. But it's an interesting time to say the least.
Yeah.
Now,
I personally just say with when it comes to like the politics, I'm like whoever's in as a president, I know we're on a timeline we're supposed to be on. So whoever's playing the part, we're supposed to go. We're getting where we need to be either way. And so if it's disastrous, that's part of our karmic journey to go through that and to evolve and to resurrect. So to me, the political figures don't matter to me. We're on a timeline for a reason.
yeah, and I don't. To me either. I find fascinating characters in a play. And honestly, I feel like your power is you.
Right.
Your energy, the way you respond, what you do. At this point, I've lost complete interest in the existing establishment of power, and
Right.
I'm very interested in creating the new world. That's where all my heart is going. In fact, I feel a little guilty that I don't care so much. But there's no need. There's no need. They've got it. I'm here to build the new world and teach people the new toys and the new pleasures. And I think that's what the new reality is. It's about pleasure. It's supposed to be heaven on earth. That was the whole design of it. That we want to feel the joy of heaven on earth in creative forms and beautiful forms, and just see how far we can take this joygasm of being on earth. And so that was what was interrupted in Atlantis, actually, and also the divine feminine was too. We'll talk about that. But before we do, let me just do a little promo for we the people of Unite the Light. We have a awesome light worker summit going on this May, by the way. If you're a person who wants to make the world a better place, then we'd like to invite you to meet a bunch of other people who want to make the world a better place. Unite the Light is a summit for light workers on May 17th, 18th, and a bonus day now on 19th that we call Afterglow. What we'll be doing is showcasing some amazing, innovative light workers out there who are pushing the envelope and taking the power of creation into their own hands. That's sort of like a TED Talks on Saturday. Plus, we have a special surprise. I'm just going to say a big surprise on Saturday we haven't mentioned. And then on Sunday, we're having power panels. We've just confirmed the completion of one of our power panels. I'll just say what it is, but won't say names. We're going to have 3 channels, okay? 1 channeling aliens, 1 channeling an angel, and 1 channeling a historical figure. And the 3 of them are going to talk about, Scott, what's going to happen during the frequency wars in the next 18 months. We're going to have that sort of trilateral conversation. That's the sort of compelling conversation we'll have at Unite the Light, but mostly it's about the we. You'll never find a place that has more people like yourself. We have a total blast. It goes by too quickly. You won't sleep through it because you're just so hyped up on energy. And then we have what we call Afterglow on Monday, which is basically lounging around pools, eating grapes, and trading secrets. So it's going to be a fun time. And we do have a little promo here to roll for you because we are now offering advertising. If you want to advertise and get your name up or your business up amongst these people, let me tell you, a lot of business deals are made. Adam?
Become a Unite the Light sponsor. Make your mark in the industry. Expand your audience and promote your business. Be a part of our mission to create a formidable lightwork alliance that boosts revenue and helps heal the earth. Sponsorship packages range from budget-friendly Kickstarters to higher-end campaigns for both Unite the Light marketing and Serious Joy TV ads. Book your Unite the Light sponsorship today at unitethelight.love/be a sponsor. That's unitethelight.love/be a sponsor.
Yay. I like our little boogieing guy. We have a new boogie guy going on now. We animated our Unite the Light light. Yeah. Sherry's going to love that we released the one with her tracking it. Sorry, Sherry. Don't be so with this, but I'm looking forward to it. And by the way, you guys, you can go to the website right now. You can buy tickets for Unite the Light. If you're a Serious Joy subscriber, you get $100 off with the coupon code. You got to be a subscriber to know what that coupon code is. We've got an awesome, what we call honky tonk dinner and step mingle, which is a really fun sort of dinner plus a game where we actually seat you according to your astrology chart around mystery people next to you. So you don't know who you're seated by, but they're people that have facets of your personality. And, you know, we do even Western wear. We're even going to do like the Western wear pictures with me. I'll be probably dressed as a sheriff most of the night.
You're wearing those chaps, huh? Those buttless chaps. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. It's the bull ride that's going to be hard, but we'll do it. The honky tonks will be fun.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, I'm excited for that. This last year was phenomenal. So, like I said, I always love part 2s. So, part
2s are always good. And you know what? The sun is conjuncting Uranus that weekend, so we're all going to be bonkers, man. We're going to be drunk on Uranus energy. Right. It's going to be, bonkers energy, but also huge breakthroughs, I think, is going to happen too. Yeah. And, serious joiners, by the way, are seated in the second row. So there's primary seating for joiners. So can't wait to be there and do this. It's going to be fun.
Sounds fun. Yeah, I'm excited.
Are you going to come to Afterglow?
I think so. It depends like how my move is going to go too. Cause like, I'm just trying to work my move around it. And so,
why do you always move when I throw a seminar? What the fuck? Last year I threw up. Last year you moved the same time. We barely got you to move before, right?
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
We almost had to move a year, not even a year. Yeah, May. Yes,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, every May you move. What the fuck?
Not just this last May, because I'm like making a major change, and
Yeah,
but May, June is like I've noticed that in my past too, because like I usually stay put for a while, but like lately it just in Palm Springs have been bouncing around. But yeah, May, June is something. But I got to look at the astrology. You got to help me with that. Why May, June for me?
Well, actually, Taurus is the 4th house for Aquarius. So Taurus is your home family foundation. Yeah, you're moving right on time. Yeah, you're moving right on time.
Well, there you go.
Y'all ground through us Tauruses.
Wow. Well,
all right. Well, let's talk about divine feminine, dude, and how. Hey, dude, let's talk about divine feminine.
Dude.
Masculine. And how it's rebalancing and re-rising itself. We'll get into the masculine later. First of all, what the hell is divine feminine? Well, I think it's our first question, and I'll just say, it's really the yin energy. A lot of religions talk about it. I think actually the Vedic approach is incredibly appropriate. That the divine feminine is actually far more powerful than divine masculine because divine feminine is the one that has the baby, births life. Masculine is just they're in for 20 minutes and they're done, right? But the female carries it all to birth. They define in the Vedic approach they define the nothingness, nothing, as the feminine, and we're born from the nothing to something, which is the masculine. But all religions have looked at these differences of energies. But I think we refer to when we say divine feminine is the idea that feminine energy plays just as important role as sacred and holy, right? And so us regarding it as divine is what's, the situation. From what I understand, it was very divine feminine in Atlantis. In fact, actually, it was kind of like as you see masculine now. From what I was told from my father, who's a bad guy out there during that time, and other people who have awakened memories, the women ran the show in Atlantis. That's why it ran like clockwork. All right. However, women back then, they were the only ones that ran the temples. I think they're the only ones that would run the healing centers. Men weren't allowed in healing centers. And men were considered dumb and just really good for lifting heavy objects and sex.
Right.
And I'm saying, let's go back to divine feminine. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all for it. I don't know what happened. But apparently somewhere, I mean, I can't see where, but I believe that after Atlantis fell and we migrated to the major intelligence centers of the earth, Peru, Egypt, Asia, and a couple others, somewhere in that migration, those other cultures became a bit more patriarchal. I think it actually started to shift towards the patriarch at that time, just beginning. And then I believe that the Roman Catholic Church just totally smashed it to bits, and pretty much made women inferior when it was, when Constantine created the Bible. To me, that's it. Now, what's divine feminine to you, man?
Well, we're all encapsulated with divine feminine, divine masculine energy. So I think a lot of times people will confuse it with gender. Like, oh, I'm a woman, I'm divine feminine. It's like, no, we both have the duality, the counterparts. So I just think that we need to be more expressive in our divine feminine. I think there's been a lot of up and down. The divine feminine to me is the nurturer, it's the creative, it's the psychic, it's the intuitive, right? It's everything we define right brain to be. That's how I also like to kind of like see the parallel when it comes to psychology. So everything you classify the right brain is divine feminine. We all possess those traits. And so what we have noticed a lot of a deprivation in with our divine feminine is the nurturing and intuitive spaces. And so I think because divine feminine has been so overcompensated and overcome and conquered by the toxic divine masculinity, right? That, then a lot of divine feminists have started to kind of prove a point. They were living out of their nature. So when the divine feminine is in balance, it doesn't have to prove anything. It's a nurture. It sees as a silent confidence to it with that energy. And again, it's that psychic, it's the seer, it's intuitive, it's a nurturer, it's a creative. And so that's what divine feminine is to me. But we all possess both counterparts. But now we're starting to recognize as a collective, because before, in history, it was this, females were projecting the divine masculine and men were projecting divine masculine. I was said reversed. But now we're starting to evolve to where we're both really recognizing we both have the divine masculine and divine feminine counterparts within us, which will end up balancing out our society and our collective. So instead of just being that, only men express divine masculine, only females express divine feminine, we're starting to recognize we're becoming more whole now. That's the completion for me. So yeah, the divine feminine is the nurturing, is the psychic, it's the seer, the intuitive, the creative, all that wonderful stuff that we.
The receiver, basically.
The receiver.
I mean, Venus is the receiver and Mars is the catcher. I mean, is the one that throws. Pitcher, thank you. And ultimately, that's two forces. Exhale is Mars, inhale is Venus. So it's that force of in and out. Honestly, when I look at history, and I don't know perfectly, but I think it all went down actually with Christianity. That's when it really became evil, because in Greece and Rome, I mean, everyone, like, there was bathhouses, everyone was screwing each other all the time. You can get as much woman as you want. There's no holding back the woman, right? Like, men could have as much as they want, a smorgasbord. Men would have men as well. It was just a sex party all the time. And then in comes Constantine and brings in these morals and basically says to men, you're shame on you if you have sex with women and they're not married, and shame on you women if you have sex. And at that point, it became difficult to get a woman, right? And to express that. And I think that was the really issue. It's like, because men couldn't have sex so freely, I think they started to despise the control of femininity and not being able to have that release, quite literally. And I think that's where the tension built, from what I can tell, like just looking at history from a real human perspective. And it just started to build. Even so, you go the Middle Ages, when you're starting to kill witches. It's all because men can't have it when they want it. I think that's really what it came down to. And so it started really killing off the idea of femininity being holy at all when we mix sexuality with feminine and women having power over us. Witches have power over us. I can't control myself, said the Puritans, so we got to kill them. So to me, that's where it was. But did you know that archangels all have a twin flame?
Yeah, I've heard that. Actually, we talked about that before, right?
Yeah.
Like Michael.
Michael's twin flame is Michelle, which is ironic, like if you know some things on it. But it's kind of weird. But they all have twin flames that are female. Never knew that before. But it always confused me, because some people would, like, I would see like Archangel cards, and sometimes there's a woman, sometimes a man. I'm like, hold on a second, which is it? Well, it turns out there's one of each, and there's expression of each, expression of the yin yang energy through different characterizations, right? Kind of interesting. In astrology, we see divine feminine. I mean, from Venus, obviously. But we also see it maybe from, some of the signs. I think Pisces is more feminine than masculine. We see certain like Cancer is more feminine than masculine.
Right.
But those are water signs. But I would say Scorpio is more masculine, even though it's a water sign. So you can energetically sort of feel those energies. But ultimately, like you said, astrology says the same thing. When I do a reading using the step system, I can tell exactly which one of the energies you have more. So the higher the number of Mars, the more experience of masculine energy you're bringing to the table. The higher number of Venus, the more energy of divine feminine you're bringing to the table. And I gotta tell you, most of my clients anyways are pretty much almost equal. Mostly equal, in the sense of the Venus and Mars number are almost the same. Sometimes you have them really low, like me. My Mars is really low, my Venus is really high. But I think that was my design. I was like, I want to stay humble, I think, honestly, because you can sort of turn up that testosterone if you don't want to. But even now in modern society, I would say with the gay culture, and this is interesting too, really has made it okay for men to be feminine. Like, really okay. Like, men don't mind that they smell good now. You know what I mean? Like, when I was in high school and stuff, like, that was not cool. But I think we allowed ourselves men have really allowed themselves to accept the feminine. I think more in the last 30 years, I've really seen that. Whereas I think the women dove into the masculine very early in the 70s. I think women became very masculine. The Hillary Clinton generation, like, kind of toughened up, wore a suit, strapped down the breasts, and, became Vanilla Jane, and like went out there with the boys, smoking cigars and trying to, act like boys to get up, up the ranks, which I don't think was appropriate, and they shouldn't have had to, But even to this day, I don't think we have, voted for a female politician in a dress.
Yeah. I mean, look, I just think that's how we're evolving. The collective is evolving, right? We had this dichotomy, man, women, and, then the rise of gay people and, hello, I'm gay, right? The rise of gay people is showing people that there is a middle ground. It doesn't have to be so polarized. It doesn't have to be so man, female. There's middle grounds. I think even with the rise of, transgenderism and the confusion of people having two different energies, I think all that's just bringing to consciousness. The fact is that we're really just trying to blend and understand how to blend our own divine mass and divine feminine and bring it in our internal balance. That's how we really evolve at this point. We don't evolve by being so separated with divine feminine and divine masculine and doing that separation with gender or sexuality. So I think the whole rising of gay people, the whole rising of transgenderism is really just a essence of our collective trying to show spiritually that we do have a spectrum here of where we can sit and where do we sit upon that spectrum. I'm not trying to say there's no definition. There's a lot of identity politics saying, oh, there's no definition, there's no gender. That's not true. But we understand we can find our balance between our nurturing abilities, our protective abilities, bring the divine masculine and divine feminine order, which allows us to be less deprived and less demanding of other people when we have our own divine masculine and divine feminine in balance. So I really feel that this whole evolution of our species and the rise of gay people and all that we've been struggling with and religion and contesting all that is really trying to let us understand what is really natural to us. And it is natural to, like you said, to have both elements, the yin to our yang internally.
I'm going to go really controversial here, and y'all, I'm waiting for the letters, but I really feel that the transgender movement is a little premature because at the end of the day, it's, to me, trans lifetime. Like, I don't feel that there are ever any mistakes in heaven. You choose your body, you choose your gender, and for some reason you chose that you were going to come down and change it. I don't know why, but I don't think it was a mistake. There are no mistakes in heaven. And we all know that we can be a man and a female, whatever we want as far as a choice. I think a lot of the souls who are transgender are just like trailblazing the fact that we can take biology under our own control and that we can push a direction of manifestation. I think they're trailblazers in the sense of pushing manifestation. But I have past life memories, so I'm a woman. I can remember breasts. I can feel them sometimes. We all, as we open up and awaken, we're going to feel all of our lifetimes where we're both genders. And I do think there's a spectrum of genders. There, if there are no genders, then Venus and Mars are the same planet.
Right.
And they're not. They're two separate consciousness are running separately, separate clocks.
I agree. But I think every experience is based on karma, right? And karmic unresolved. So this could be
Yeah.
people who are transgender, maybe struggling with the fact that they're trying to, maybe they were dismissive to women in a past lifetime. They incarnate
Yep.
as a man and they're like, that's like a woman. And so now they're really blurring the lines between their experience of how they condemned women. Now they're like, I can't help but feel like I'm a woman in a man's body. So that confusion can help resolve their previous incarnational karma by understanding what it's like to really be a female through a male
Right.
experience, right? So
Yeah.
there's so many variables. There's also mental and psychological trauma that can create such things, and there's also just
True.
people just feel that way, right? They just feel fluid this way. So there's so many different variables. I think people try to put in the box too much, but I think a lot of
No.
people, and you and I talked about this before, that a lot of it we feel like they just haven't resolved their past gender in the previous incarnation either.
Yeah, I think
And
to some
so
degree.
the confusion of such can help you to come to terms more with that. The experience.
Yeah, my cautionary is like, the body is very hard to, you can't go back, so it's like, I think that from ages 0 to 30, you're going to relive all your past lives. So if one of the past lives that you're going to relive is you of the other gender, you'll be convinced that you're that gender for like 2 years. You'll feel that, it'll probably phase out. I also, the other thing too, is I see transmutation through lifetime. So most of the women who are like doing amazing things, I'm not trying to be, again, I'm sure I'm going to get letters on this one. But from the women that I have, they're strong women that I read, they're men just last lifetime. They're opportunist men that became women right in the age of woman. It's still men. You know what I mean? Like, technically, pushing that female envelope. A lot of men came in and became women, and they're slowly softening over the lifetime as they get used to that gender, they get used to those hormones. I know with gay couples I read all the time, one will be like had been a man in the last life, the other will have been a woman in the last life. And literally as a couple, the one who had been a woman slowly becomes more masculine, moves towards the top position. The one who had been more, masculine moves towards feminine. And that whole love relationship is literally exchange of genders. By the time they've been, 30 years, they've switched genders within just their love relationship, sort of as the mixture bowl, So it's a lot of different ways that things unfold. And I agree. I think sometimes I had at least one client where, yes, as a male, he was pissed that as a woman, he was repressed. And I think energetically, he was pissed that he was repressed as a woman, and he wanted that chance back in the seat. He wanted to be back in that driver's seat again. Now that women could do something, and I'm like, okay, I got you. I think it's not a bad thing. But what's interesting is it is all neutralizing. I wonder, it's really, I think to some degree too, the rise of gay relationships is because humans are getting tired of this polarization, anyways. It's boring.
Well, that's why I feel like those transgender, those who are transgender are kind of bringing that out of consciousness, human consciousness. It's like, it is bringing out, trying to remedy the polarization that we've had between divine feminine, divine masculine, that there is a middle ground to things, and that it isn't so. I think a lot has to do about societal expectations too. So I feel like, those who are transgender are breaking those norms. I have transgender friends who've been transgender their whole life, and they know that. Then a lot of Muslims say, I'm not trying to be passable. I'm a dude wearing, dressed as a woman. I'm not trying to pretend I'm a woman, right? They just enjoy that expression. So, but I've learned a lot from those people. I even as a gay man, I had hang-ups about that. But like spending a lot of time with them, I've learned that it's taught me a lot about my own insecurities, right, and my own imbalances with my divine feminine, divine masculine. So, to me, they're just teachers. And I always say, whatever people are so like hung up over, or people have such a disdain for, it's very telling of the person. Because at the end of the day, we're all souls here incarnated, having experiences, despite the body that you're in, despite the gender that you are. We're all having experiences for a reason, and that's how we're growing our soul consciousness through these experiences. So when we kind of are more curious about that, then we look at different walks of life, then we get to understand more of ourselves and more about how nature evolves. So I'm not being a testament to, because people, I'm not like preaching there's 52 genders. I'm not preaching all that. I do believe there's divine masculine, divine feminine. We have a spectrum that we balance in between that. I don't believe in all that other stuff, but I just think we should just keep it simple, stupid. So
well,
and there's
we live in
people
a
that
duality.
feel both
We live in a duality. I mean, there is electrons, electrons and protons. Down to the very core of science, it's always positive, negative charge. Okay,
but
batteries positive
but
charge, negative would be divine feminine, positive would be divine masculine. That is the way the earth is built, and the reason is because there's power between the attraction of the two. God split into two polarities, and the attraction between the two is how we harness all the power everywhere. Everything is spinning based on the attraction of those two. If you bring them to a neutrality, you don't have any attraction anymore. Like it's the opposite that you don't have that craves. Even in astrology, and I see couples. So when you have couples, for instance, who have like really great sex, but the rest of the relationship sucks, You know what I mean? I will see that his male is like really high and her Venus is like really low. And so the attraction is intense because there's a high male and a low female, or high female and a low male. And so that those hugely opposite energies draw on this like crazy attraction because those two want to, merge and become neutral. Everything in nature seeks neutrality. Yeah. So I think to some degree, once we undo that opposition, it becomes really boring here. Really boring. So does the sex. Gets really boring.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree to what you're saying too, but I think that Age of Aqua is really kind of going to break that whole like extreme duality. You know what I'm saying? Because, I'm not just a man. I realize that when I understand I have divine masculine and divine feminine, I have more to play with. I have more that I can be. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. When you have both, when both are acceptable, then you have more toys, basically. Yeah.
Yes. I don't think it's a neutrality. I feel it's like I can bend more. I can be more flexible more in life. I can express more that I was afraid to express before, and it just gives you more experience. So for me, like I was saying before, when I was trying to rudely interrupt you, I was saying like 5D is understanding that like there is more beyond the polarity, that you can actually be more flexible in that sense, right? Doesn't mean that I'm going to all of a sudden be a woman. I love being encompassed in a male body. I love that. But it means I understand how to incorporate different aspects of my soul consciousness of divine feminine, divine masculine, and bring it in to have more quality experience, which makes better change. So I feel like that's what the Age of Aqua is going to be doing, is bringing that more of that understanding, you know what I mean, of that. Not so much that we're in a void, but we're understanding, I have more of a wiggle room in life now. It is. I don't have to be just one mode.
More to work with. Well, I think the reason why Earth's gone to shit is because of the loss of divine feminine. Because the divine feminine is, to stop and take in, right? So the fact that a congressman does not listen to another congressman is a lack of divine feminine. The fact that a war general doesn't take a second before he hits the button is a lack of divine feminine. If you don't have that momentary pause where you take in the other party, like, I feel like they're mad. That is divine feminine, to take that energy in and to taste it, to take it in and let it incorporate into you, i.e. penetrate you, really. Take that energy and let it penetrate you for just a moment to identify it. That's divine feminine. And I think some of the reason why we squashed women was because there were reason. Right. The man be like, we're going to attack Rome. She's like, how are you doing? You get home to that wife is just like, no, you're not. We're not attacking Rome. It's like, shut up, woman. I'm the patriarch. And a lot of that was, I think, just to squash opposition that they knew full well they were doing the wrong thing.
Right.
Like men did. And so they wanted totalitarian power. So squash that part of me that would take in and have compassion for the other side. And so I think we shit on Venus for a long time.
Yes.
Because we want to get away with Martian stuff.
And that's the ascension to me, is that working together with, not working in opposition to. It's like a marriage. We're on the spiritual level marrying the divine feminine, divine masculine. We're marrying it together. That's union, right? Yeah. So that's how I see that. We've been not so much union, so been opposition too much. So that's kind of feel where it's going. And so someone says it's all spectrums balance. Everything's a spectrum. You know what I'm saying? And where we stand in that spectrum. And so I think that you and I, like to validate your point, we do agree to come as men and women. Express that, we do agree with that, and we're not going to be like all in the gray zone area, but emotionally and spiritually we can still exhibit divine masculine, divine feminine, physically and tangibly. That will always be, in that sense. So,
well, I know my soul. I mean, I've always been male. I just like being a man better. I have a couple of lifetimes I can remember being a woman, and I just don't dig it as much. I don't like the body, the menstrual, all that stuff. It's just too much. But I think in this lifetime, I was like, okay, I need to chill out a little bit because I went way too warrior and stuff, and Knights Templar and stuff. And so I turned down the testosterone. My Mars is like at 1, and my Venus is way up at 26. So I was like, okay, I'll be a man with a high Venus, and that should solve it. Well, no.
High Venus.
Right. Seriously. And so now I'm a guy that gets along with women really well and has a business based on relationships to women, so which is kind of cool as an astrologer. But I think your soul starts to get it, like it starts to understand the balance of the two. And the irony is honestly the ego only exists on Earth; it doesn't follow you to heaven.
No, of course not.
So
Ego's
really,
that's our survival mechanism. And if the ego's doing its job, it's going to do anything it can to survive. And so that's what I was saying. We're learning how to nurture the ego with our divine feminine, So, and that's when we don't feel like we have to be deprived or like cheat people or steal from people or knock people down or have insecurities because we nurtured the ego. And, so yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, totally. And for every woman who goes, "This is my last lifetime," there's no penises in heaven. It's only You're not going to get laid. There's no masculine up there. It's utterly all feminine. It's all female. Like it's all because the male energy doesn't make it up there. It's it doesn't work that way. So enjoy them while you got them, girls. That type of thing. Now that said, let's do a commercial with Scott.
Yeah, roll it, Adam.
Scott Cruz is popularly known for his life-changing one-on-one readings to also guide in your soul ascension journey. With life readings, get insight into your relationships, career, health, trauma healings, past life regressions, and more. Want to connect with a loved one who's transitioned? Scott's mediumship session can be the gateway to you and your loved ones in spirit, bridging the gap between the physical and the spiritual realm. If you want to enhance your own psychic ability, Scott's Intuition Builder session can help expand your psychic and mediumship abilities. So sign on to scottcruzpm.com to book your own personal session today.
Dude, I'm experiencing like the Mandala effect. Like I swear to God, that commercial didn't have hair a few seasons ago, and now I swear to God, it didn't have hair. Like that, how did I miss that? It's a Mandala effect. I don't know what's going on. No, you look good, dude. Yeah, I like to come alive. Are you? I think you're muted. Are you muted?
Am I muted?
Oh yeah, we're back now. Yeah, we're back.
Yeah. There's gonna be so many changes. It's called the Mandela effect. Yeah, I was never bald before, so
that's funny. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. And Fruit of the Looms didn't have a basket of fruit on the front either. I don't know.
Hey, my divine feminine says if I want hair, I'm going to go get it. So
yeah,
I'm an
that's
experiment.
ironic. Yeah, that's ironic. Yeah.
Don't you think?
And the irony of baldness is that it's too much testosterone that causes baldness. And the other irony of baldness is it comes from the mother's gene. So your mother's hairline actually will determine if you have baldness. What's that?
I said, yeah, they say that.
Yeah. So if you have to look at your mom's sister, your mom's brother to see if it's going to hit you.
Interesting. Yeah. Isn't that weird? It's it's high testosterone, but coming from it's a mixture of things.
It burns the hair follicles or so much, that Puerto Rican anger of yours.
It's Italian too. He's hot
blooded Italian. Too, that's true. Yeah, you get a lot of
about that too.
So the question is, how do we rebalance the divine feminine and masculine energies and create a new magic together?
We kind of like glossed over that a little bit, right? But I think really understand that we both have both. We all have both, and we have to also understand what divine masculine is. In my short summary, for me, divine masculine is the protecting energy, is the warrior energy, is the fight energy. It's a very strong energy. It's a very dense energy too. But again, divine masculine also could be very nurturing too and supportive. Right. And so a lot of times, when we're, asking for help from spirit, to connect with the divine masculine spirit, they're just going to help you no matter what. They don't care about growth. They don't care about evolution. Like, let me help you. Here it is. Here's the money you need. Here's the support you need. It's like Archangel Michael, right? It's unconditional. They'll support you, give what you need, and protect you for whatever you need. And I would say when we understand that aspect of ourselves, that we're going to set boundaries, we're going to make sure that we're not allowing people to come in, then we understand that's a divine masculine trait, to protect, to stand firm, to create our boundaries. And then understand the emotional, sensitive, nurturing side to that too. It's like, well, I'm going to nurture myself. I'm going to nurture others around me. I'm going to be, inspired and listen to my intuition. We understand how to bring that together. Then again, we got to protect our nurturing, our divine feminine by setting those boundaries, right? Making sure we're not allowing people to take advantage of us, and make sure we're not giving too much to people. That's divine masculine energy, protection. So when we understand how to utilize both aspects, and Christopher, how many times we talk about setting boundaries all the time in our shows and in our sessions? We're always kind of preaching people who have their divine masculine out of order, too much empathy. Empathy is out of order. Empathy is like going cray-cray, that they don't protect their empathy. They either get burnt out or taken advantage of, right? Because they're not protecting that space, the heart space. So that to me is understanding the duality between the divine masculine and divine feminine, protecting it.
Well, I think to do magic, you got to get yourself pregnant. So, sperm in the egg tells the whole story. 1 million sperm, 999,000, will sacrifice themselves for the one that gets in. You know what I mean? Like, men are here to sacrifice most of themselves for that one cherished egg. Biology pretty much tells us sort of the ratio is we are disposable men. We become a dime a dozen. From what I understand, too, you can't be a woman till you've been a man. That's why a woman is a wombed man. Woman is a wombed man. So to be a woman means you've already been a man, graduated, and now you're a wombed man.
Whoa, man.
Yeah. That's what it is. Seriously, no, I got that shit from a book. But seriously, it was a conversation with God. God said it. But I agreed. I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. because it's so sacred to create life. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing to create life, to hold life in yourself and create life. That's a really cool trip I think to have. But ultimately, I think this is going to happen it's going to work itself organically out. I think fortunately, the modern millennial man doesn't work or do shit. So they're letting the women take over. It's already going back. Women in that generation are already taking over. You can see like women taking the jobs, taking the smart stuff. It's going back to, Atlantis times, because he won't get off the couch. He won't take out the garbage. Men have become, in many cases, very lazy and not ambitious as they used to be. And women I've seen become really sharper, very ambitious, sometimes working harder and sharper. So like, I think naturally the balance is happening, Some argue too in the 70s. So it's like, I don't know. I hear women talk about this all the time, where it's like in the 70s, were we really empowering women when we made them leave their cool stay at home, raise the kids, and go out there and work just as hard as men, then come home and take care of the house? Like suddenly women had two jobs. That is the rise of divine feminine. I don't know. To me, that was the rise of divine feminine slavery, because women then, had it harder at that point. And household economies, took now two salaries to get, to have one household. So sometimes I think we've been duped in these efforts. Like we've been tricked, under the guise of equality. It wasn't. And to this day, payment is not equal in most businesses between men and women, kind of thing. So to this day, that's still happening, even though we've made it equal for women to work.
Well, I just think, again, the evolution is like stop condensing divine feminine, divine masculine to gender. Them saying like women.
It's energy. Yeah.
I'm saying? Only women serve a certain role. Like they can't go out there and be protectors. And there's a lot of women that just don't want a man. I talk to a lot of them. Like, I don't want a man. I want to create a business for myself. And, they have healing businesses and they're very like determined and to do so. And so, I think there's a lot of positives in that too. So I do feel like, I'm sure you would agree that a lot of divine feminine has a lot of that history and karma of like, we need to prove ourselves. And, but I'm also seeing a lot of women just, they're fine just being the independent and the caretaker of themselves and being a single mom. I see a lot of very, very, very happy about that. So I just think there's a lot of change going on, fragmented, not for everybody. It's not going to be one size fits all for everybody. But I think, like I was saying before, Christopher, the balancing that we're saying here with divine feminine, divine masculine is understanding that, women don't have to play that traditional women role as men don't have to do that either. I think that's been,
It's true. Although, then there's other aspects of it too. I'll just speak as, as a divine masculine. It's like, I liked lingerie. I like some of these directions, like the accentuation of certain body parts. It had nothing to do to me with like, degrading a woman. I think gay men have like stepped up to that par where they have all sorts of, underwear and gear and things that show off their parts, so I don't see it as for instance, that is a bad thing. The woman wears this sort of clothes or high heels. I'm not saying wear high heels, but it's hot, what I mean? Like for the other party, if you're into it, there's something hot about it. To me, it was never about, I think it was rude, in the 70s or the 80s where wear high heels to work. That's stupid. Because to me, it's something you'd wear on a date or something, right? Because you're trying to turn on the other party. But my point is like, we don't have to get rid of everything, you know what I mean? And some of the things that were cool about certain genders and body types. I think there's cool. The difference is coolness. It's cool.
Yeah, and honestly, Christopher, when we get the true divine masculine, divine feminine imbalance, I think people would embrace more of their.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah,
feminine expression through the physical body and the male expression through the so, and there'll be a lot less judgmental energy of each other. Like, oh, a woman can't be fat or a guy can't be short and bald. Like we have so much of that stuff because we're out of balance that we just would accept for what it is. We wouldn't put so much stigma on the male expression of the body or the female expression of the body. We have people more easygoing about it.
And it flips around, y'all. I've heard women get on to me about makeup. Like, I don't have to wear makeup. Like, have you seen pictures of Benjamin Franklin? He looked like a fucking clown. Men were wearing makeup back then like crazy, and women were plain Jane. In fact, it looked like you were dating a man back then if you were a man.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because the women were so plain Jane, they had nothing on, and it was all men all caked up and all dolled up with their asses in the air and little frilly things around them. Like, it moves around. I don't think it has to do with any gender either. That sort of, highlighting of the body and, and taking up of the body with color and things like that. It really does go back and forth, based on the year. So
100%.
Yeah. I think ultimately though, like I said a minute ago, it's like if you want to do magic and ascend, you have to master both. Not masturbate, master both. Like you have to be able to take your feminine and then your masculine. You've got to have your masculine get your feminine pregnant. That's what a spell is. You know, you've got to make your energy, your other energy pregnant and create this energy with the two sides of you. So ascension, it means the incorporation of both and the use of both energetically to be able to rise to the next level. Because again, they're really just positive, negative, yin yang. You know, you know, God's energy is split into two polarities, and between the two polarities, as the magic comes from, you know, deliberately using those oppositions to create power and change. So I feel like we're almost there. You know, I don't want to pronounce her name, Kamala, or is it Kamala? And then Harris. I mean, I honestly think that was the last failure of a female candidate. Like, I'm not, you know, like as far as a woman trying, not getting, you know, kind of thing. Now she's a Libra, which is very a feminine energy. She's a Libra. She's a Venus ruled energy, but she came across to me as very Mars, right? Like, kind of tough. Like, I wouldn't get in a bar fight with her. She looks like she'd kick your ass, you know, like, so, you know, again, I think for women running for president have always been very masculine women. And this isn't to be, you know, but if my grandma ran for president, I'll vote for her. You know what I mean? Like there's a feminine goddess wise energy of women that I think if one of those goddess wise women ran versus one that, you know, can smoke cigars at Harvard, I feel like that would win because every boy has a mom, you know, and has a grandma, has one feminine character that played this divine feminine role in their life that they love and cherish and would do anything for. So we haven't seen that likable, we haven't seen that expression of divine feminine sort of going for power. We've seen the divine feminine like basically overrode their feminine, pretending to be masculine, you know, and to beat the boys at the boys' game kind of thing. But I think that's the end of it.
Well, I think that's the environment of politics. Politics is a very like, you know, divine masculine out of order expression. It's sport. It's like, you know, it really isn't about true nurturing. And I think that's why we don't have many women running for president because they really can't. They're not going to be effective to really be the nurturer and the seer, right? Because politics is very, very controlled and very, very narrow viewed in a sense. Even though it pretends to be open, it's really not. So that's why I think men tend to like dominate the space because it's very, very surface. It really isn't about the people, you know. It's about control. It's about structure.
At the moment,
personal
I remember,
right? You know what I mean.
I remember Robin Williams' concert where he's like, "That's why women should be president. It would be amazing, but every 28 days, some intense negotiations." You know what I mean? Like,
right.
White House shuts down. I don't know what's going on with Miss President. No, I just saying. I feel like the next woman that runs, I think will win. Like I just have a sense of it. I feel it.
Because we'll be in the age where it's actually divine feminism balance. We'll be in that age. So men would be actually seeing the benefit and power of the divine feminine. So men would be like more open to it. Men will understand the divine masculine that's out of balance will understand we need a divine feminine and understand what those clauses are. So I think that when the balance has complete, we will have a female ruler once, you know, again. I mean, other countries have female rulers. What's up with America? America's very, you know, patriarchal and, you know.
Yeah, but then again, I've seen like, you know, Margaret Thatcher kind of male. You know, again, they're all still kind of male energies. They've never been. I haven't seen, you know, Amma be president. You know what I mean? Like, you know, or any like divine feminine that you might see or know. It's, you know, very, very few. Dr. Ruth be president. We haven't seen anything like that. You know what I mean? Sure. Although in the gay culture, I do love like gay men. As I become friends and know them, like if a gay man gets sick, he's not counting on his boyfriend to take care of him. He's calling his sister. You know what I mean? Like. He calls in the feminine because he knows that jackass ain't gonna do shit for him, and so there's always some like, you know, fag hag woman around who will take care, you know, and do that nature role with him, and so gay men can see how this all works. You know what I mean? It's all girls as far as they're concerned, anyways. Right? So you know, you're starting to see that incorporation is pretty interesting. I think that's what I have to say. Right? Patriarchy is gonna die. We'll see.
Well, I mean, it's just going to find its role. Like it's not just one way or the other way. It's always just like so extreme. I think we're again, it's all about the balance of that, you know. And this I don't want to sound like overly cliche about the spectrum, but there is a spectrum of divine masculine energy and divine feminine. We want to find our balance in that. It doesn't mean that men start acting as women. It doesn't mean like women start acting like men. People completely go in that other direction, which is their own insecurities. We're talking about intellectually understanding that balance and your talents and soul skill sets that we possess to find balance, find happiness in life. It's about understanding where we sit in that spectrum. If we're too over in the divine masculine, we're missing our nurturing and psychic awareness and creativity. If we're too nurturing and too psychic and too, you know, creative, we're missing out the boundaries in life and how to support and protect ourselves. So we got to find the balance of that. And so it's more about, to me, it's more about soul intellect, less about gender. I love being a man. I love being a masculine dude. I love masculine dudes. I don't ever want that to change. I have fun with that, So, we all have our preferences, and then let people be. So people just don't let people be too, by the way. That's another imbalance of our divine feminine, divine masculine. We're so concerned about how someone else is expressing themselves. Let them express themselves. Let ourselves express ourselves. If people have a problem with someone expressing themselves, clearly there's reservations that they can't be themselves. And that's because divine feminine is out of balance. And that's why I think it's resurrecting to bring that comfort, to bring that nurturing.
I think that there's a real woman in the White House, there would never be a war again. And that's the reason why there's not a woman in the White House. It's because at the end of the day, the male generals are not getting away with shit. You know what I mean? Like, because there would not be, we don't need to bomb them. We don't need to kill some other woman's child. The fact that you are aware of creation when you make a decision and what you went through for 9 months to carry that baby, no woman's going to push that button. Mm-hmm. I just don't think she is. She knows she has options. And that's what men don't want to hear. They don't want to hear that there are better options. They just want to stay in charge and do it their way. Go kill a million sperm for one thing.
Yeah, but it's also one big club, and we ain't in it. So there's more to that picture too when it comes to politics. As George Carlin once said, it's a big club, and we ain't in it. So it's a lot more.
You can go deeper here too. Those men who are masochists and who are only male, they're terrified of their female side, and they don't like that women have that power over them because it's reminding them that they're a chick on the inside too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And the ones I've known, like growing up in this, I went all over the country as a kid, seeing all sorts of America and different types of male energies. And the ones that were real sons of bitches, they're in the closet as far as I'm concerned. They were terrified of their female side. And so they had to repress their girlfriends to repress the idea that there was a feminine part of them, and be mean and control them or whatever. I've never understood someone who wants to control the woman. Like, why? How boring is that?
It's like, and look at most men are not spiritually inclined or don't believe in psychic ability or spiritual, abilities. It's mainly female. Most men are like, that stuff doesn't exist. No, I can't think outside the box. Like, there's a lot of even that going on of suppressing and rejecting just the divine feminine energy too. It's like they resist spirituality. And I'm sure you talked to a lot of clear clients. Their husbands don't believe in what they're doing, and until they have a session and they tell their husbands freak out. How do you know that? And so there's a lot of suppression. I think a lot of men are starting to become more intuitive now. A lot of men are starting to resurrect, to be more psychic, and allowing there to be more spiritual essences. So that's a good thing.
And I got to say, too, it goes both ways. I know a lot of women who are not taking on responsibility. They still want to be taken care of. They don't want to get a job. They don't want to have a purpose in life other than the man. It's like, it's the 2020s. Like, you're going to have a purpose other than me. Like that, we expired that a long time ago. So a lot of women are staying stuck in that old model, too, I got to say. As like, come on, like you wanted the power? Now use it. Just do something with it. And, you see on the internet, like, I'm going to find a man who takes care of me and gives me all this stuff, and I'm just going to look pretty for a living. It's like, until you age and you have nothing, because he'll discard you and get another one. Right.
That's a disempowered divine feminine, because I always say everything has two poles to it, a positive pole, negative pole, or a powered or disempowered pole. So you can be divine feminine and have a very disempowered version of that, or a powered version. That's just a disempowered.
That's toxic feminine. We should do an episode on toxic feminine.
Yes, it is toxic feminine.
Toxic feminine, whatever coming up. Well, I think that's all we have time for now to piss off the genders. We apologize, but we don't. We have no apologies, but we are grateful to look at these topics and have an interesting conversation. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Next week, we're going to dive into how to create your own luck just in time for St. Patrick's Day. Is there such a thing as luck? We'll talk about that. I think it's spiritual talent. But remember, folks, don't put up with a shift show. Stand up and lead out loud and be proud. See you next week.
Bye, guys.
Whew. Again, you get away with that? There's a bunch of women outside my door banging really hard.
Right. And I forgot to pitch my live show again tonight. Live show tonight. 6 p.m. It's what am I talking about? I'm talking about fate or free will is the topic tonight.
Oh.
So what is your fate or is it free will? So we'll get into the differences of that to my show tonight. So join me 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern time on my channel.
I think fate is a free will choice you made in heaven. And wrap, everybody.
There you go.